Hi, and welcome to Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, founder and creative mind behind Rainbow Shaker, a colorful interior design studio in London. My goal is to spread joy and happiness through the design of cheerful interiors. If, like me, you think that we need a colorful bubble to escape the daily gloom, then this podcast is definitely for you. Each episode, I will be welcoming well-known guests from various colorful backgrounds. You won't find us speaking about the right way to use colors. In this podcast, I want to help you trust your intuition and give you all the confidence you need when designing interiors full of dopamine. Hi, and welcome back to Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, your eccentric host and interior designer from Rainbow Shaker. Today, we're exploring the enchanting world of children's interior design. Joining us is a special guest, Medina King from MK Kids Interiors, a multi-award-winning interior design studio, well known from their whimsical and vibrant approach in crafting joyful spaces for children of all ages. Hi, Medina. Welcome here.
Hi, Justine. Thank you so much for having me. Your home is so beautiful and it just makes me happy.
Thank you. How are you?
I am well, thank you. And even better being in your beautiful space.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, yeah. So we are an interior design studio that focuses on creating amazing spaces for children. And I think that's our aim in life, just to make children happy in the spaces that they're in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you understand how that can be, like when your surroundings or when your space is designed towards your needs and towards making you feel good. It really does help your emotional and psychological well-being.
You have a London-based interior design studio, but you're all around the world, basically.
Yes, and I'm really grateful for that. We are based in London. We started in London. Actually, I was born in East London, in Hackney, and that's where I started my creative journey. I went to university in London, at the University of the Arts, and studied interior design there. And I did a foundation degree at Camberwell College of Art. So it all started in London, and then we became known worldwide. I don't know how, but we have worked on projects in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Nigeria, the Netherlands, Jamaica, and the USA. So I think we're in 5 states now in the USA, which is quite nice. It's nice because it's almost as though we started in London. We worked around London and the Southeast. And now we're just expanding us and spreading our wings to create more beautiful spaces for children across the world.
I think it's really nice that your interior design studio is focusing on children, because interior designer mostly are focusing on globally, but children, you can bring them something completely unique for them.
And I think that's why before I started, I was looking for a niche, because that's what you're supposed to do in business. So I wrote the business plan, or in the process of writing the business plan, and everyone kept on talking about what's your niche, what's going to make you stand out. And at the time I was working with children. I loved working with children, not in the space of design, but just supporting them. The church that I went to, we did lots of work with them, and I loved that side of things. I also was very vibrant with using color. I loved painting and loved very beautiful, bright artwork, and I just wanted to marry the two. And at the time, the world was very Kelly Hoppen, or not the world, maybe the UK. It was very Kelly Hoppen, like taups and black and whites, and I was just like, I want more life. I want more color. And it just made sense. The children's interiors came to my mind. Actually, a friend of mine asked me to do her daughter's bedroom, and that was the first independent project I did after uni that I enjoyed doing. It was a very pink, bright room, but the girls loved it so much. Even the mom stepped in there sometimes, and for me, I was like, that gave me joy, that gave me satisfaction. And so when it came to finding the niche, it made sense. that niche would be creating spaces for children. There was also a need for designing spaces for children on the autistic spectrum, because again, I was working with a young boy at the time who was autistic. It was a nice experience, but it was also challenging because I realized that their needs weren't being met. And even in the spaces that they were using, it wasn't being catered for their needs. And so I wanted to do that, but then going into it and designing spaces for children with autism, I realized that there wasn't funding for that. There wasn't, most parents couldn't really afford that. So yes, it's something that we do. And we wanted to do like a fundraising for it, which we haven't really completed. We started, but we haven't completed it, so that we can do more spaces for those children. We've worked with Make-A-Wish Foundation. Again, they just gave us the budget for the room, which we designed 2 lovely rooms for 2 amazing young ladies. And I loved that. Again, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of joy, just creating these spaces for children who really need these spaces designed specifically for their needs. So that's where I started, and I'm enjoying the journey. It makes me happy. Do you know, like, life can be so turbulent sometimes, and I believe that I've had the most turbulent past 3 years. And it was my business and working and designing spaces for children that has actually just brought me through that time. It's healing.
Yeah.
And I was listening to something, I can't remember if it was a podcast, but someone said, once you make people happy, you're a healer.
What's great with working with children is also they don't have those boundaries or social constraints that we tend as adults to have. So you can really go crazy.
Wild.
You can really be very, very creative. And
I love that. And I love when the parents allow their children to be expressive. So that was an idea as well, to have the children involved in the design of the space. And those are the most successful spaces because it gives children a sense of empowerment and belonging, because they're empowered to create a space that they will use. So they love that. And then it helps us to design with their needs in mind. So we know if we get a brief from a child, we know that, okay, this is what they need. These are the things that are really important to them. Let's implement it. And when we do, oh my goodness, we have the most happiest children. And that's so nice.
Yeah.
That's so nice. I think what helps with us, though, we connect with that inner child. And I think being able to connect with your inner child allows you to be creative for the children that we're designing for. So sometimes we don't get to meet the children, but just knowing, what would I do if I was a child, or how would I like this space to be if I had to use it as a child? So that's how we design.
How has been your journey to colors? Have you always been connecting to your inner child in terms of color?
I think so. I do believe that, because although I was born here, when I was really young, I went to Jamaica, and before I was 1, actually, I went to Jamaica. And I remember, well, I don't remember the birthday, but I've seen pictures where we've celebrated my first birthday in Jamaica. And if you know the Caribbean, it's just so vibrant, it's so colourful. It's just, even the skies, we were talking earlier about London grey clouds, which are outside right now, and the Caribbean sky, which is blue and clear. And we only see clouds when it rains. And when it rains and the rain is done, the cloud disappears. And then we see blue skies again. So the blue skies with the tropical plants and flowers, as well as how people dress, how they paint their shops, and they use the brightest colors. I mean, not necessarily of my taste now, but it's something that has been in me from a child. Those are the things that have always stuck with me, and they will continue to. And I think it's given me that innate ability to put colors together.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for those early beginnings in the Caribbean where color was used differently.
And do you have a favorite color or favorite colors?
Okay, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, it was white, which is not. It's not really a color. And then it was orange. I remember I went to the West End Topshop at the time, and I saw this really elaborate orange skirt that had different layers. I love frills and I love textures, and it was orange, and I bought it. And I used to wear that skirt with like orange and black leg warmers. And I think that was my favorite outfit. And that was probably the most reflective of my personality. And then it got to pink. So now my favorite color is pink. And it was my daughter that made me realize, Mommy, what's your favorite color? I think it's pink. And so, yes, it is pink. I have pink and orange in my logo. I didn't realize my two favorite colors. So, yes, so those are my two favorite colors.
So it has been like kind of a evolution.
Yeah. From nothing to pink and orange.
I think colors, when you're designing for children, it's playing also an essential part in child development and in their well-being. Have you seen a difference before and after, like in a specific project?
One of my earlier projects, this is one of the first projects that I did for friends of mine, and this was their son's room. So I went into this space. It was very dark. They had the curtains drawn, but it was depressing. It just needed to be a child's space. They had I think it was a bigger bed, and it lacked personality. And this child, he loved colors, he loved cars and numbers at the time. And although I didn't go really wild with the colors that were on the wall, because we still wanted it to be like a neutral backdrop, and thinking about if they move or if they have another child, like, this room needs to be able to evolve with the child. I remember we put stuck numbers on the walls, found these truck stickers, and I put them right along the skirting. So everything was almost in his reach. And then I had these playful hooks that I found from IKEA. They were like dinosaur bombs. I don't know if you remember them. They had like tail. Yeah. I got those, got them on the wall. And then I found these monkeys and Hamleys that you could stick the hands together. So I just hung the monkeys over, and he loved it. It was like the simplest things that I did. And then the curtains were like from John Lewis, and they had like lines in them and a little bit of colors, but he loved it. He slept in his room since I designed it, because he wasn't sleeping in his room. He was always in his parents' room. So he was sleeping in his room. He was playing in his room. They couldn't get him out of his room. He would take the monkeys and go to everywhere with the monkeys, and he used to call the monkeys jumping on the bed. And monkeys jumping on the bed. And I thought that was the cutest and the sweetest thing. And then I realized, wow, I'm actually meeting a need. I'm encouraging these children to take the next step, to grow up and to move into their big boy, big girl's bedroom. Yeah. And to enjoy that. And when a child has a space that they can call their own, a space that they can identify with, look, I've got the numbers that I love, the tractors, the monkeys, that will draw them to the space and encourage them. And that was a starting point. And that's where we realized that this niche is not just a niche for the sake of, but we are actually solving a problem. That is here. Yeah. And we are encouraging children to be more independent and sleep in their spaces and to enjoy their spaces. And one of the recent rooms that we did, as soon as the boy's bed was up, the mother sent us a picture of, he was under his duvet, just smiling, beaming. And those pictures give me so much joy, so excitement. One of our clients in Nigeria, she sent me a video. They were recording the room for something, I think asking me where something should go or something. I can't remember what it was. And I saw the son just climbing on the bed and jumping on and sliding down. And that touched my heart. That just made me think, wow, Reg, you're doing a good job for these kids, because when they grow up, they're going to think back to their childhood and think, oh, we had an amazing room. Yeah. We had a space that we could go into and just be us. And I love that. And that just gives me satisfaction and joy. And it's funny because as children, we're mimicking the adults. So they have their sense of responsibility, independence, and they're starting to become their own person. Yes, yeah. And you do see that, especially when they have their own space, a space that's designed specifically for them. It's really important what you said. The children must keep their expressive side. When I was a child, I didn't really have a say in my bedroom design, I would say. And
even the colors. I remember my mom wanted like all the walls to be plain white. And then she was like, we're going to put the ceiling in blue. Blue is calm. This is going to be easier for you to fall asleep. Relax. But then every time I was in this room, I was like, I don't know, I want to put more colors on. And she was like, no, no, I don't want you to paint anything or touch anything. So I was just
so painful.
So I was just grabbing every print I could find, like colorful prints or anything, and I was just sticking it on the wall, on the ceiling, everywhere.
To your mother's dismay.
Yeah. And she was like, why? So there's still like you can see the marks of the but I needed to express. That. Yeah. Otherwise I wouldn't have felt that it was my room.
Exactly. So it wasn't your space because it had nothing in there that reflected you and your personality.
Yeah.
And that's what we try and do for every child that we design for. And even when we design kids clubs and daycares, I know we have to think about all children, but it's something that we think, okay, will children enjoy this? Will they be safe in here? These are the questions that we ask when we're designing. And for me, I didn't have a nice bedroom growing up. Well, when I was in Jamaica, it was my grandmother's space. It was actually a passing space that people would use to go through to the bathroom. So it was never my own. And it was just a space that I'd go and sleep. I had a big bed, which I loved, but just to make it that more personal would have been really special for me. And I'm glad that I can do that for children. I'm glad that I was able to do that for my daughter as well. Just seeing how she is excited about her space. And I got her involved in the process. I said, okay, this is your room. What color would you like it? At the time, she liked pink. I think I influenced that. So now she doesn't like pink. So we painted everything pink. And even the radiators were pink and the shelves were pink. It was a really nice, soft, muted kind of pink. It wasn't as dusty. It was still a bit rich, but it was a really nice pink, not too in your face. And then she said she wanted a rainbow wall. I didn't want a rainbow wall. No way. But I hand painted this rainbow wall and she loved it. I loved it after. I painted it during lockdown. And this was probably like the most depressing season for many people. And after I painted it, every time I'd come downstairs and look in her room, I'd smile. Yeah. Just looking at the colors and seeing the rainbow. And it made me happy. It made her happy. Although that was about 3-4 years ago. She loves it. She still talks about it today. And I know she'll grow out of it, but it's like she chose the fabrics for her curtain. It wasn't something that I'd put together. But again, I wanted her to feel proud of, I chose these curtains, I chose these fabrics. So it was like a dotted fabric, which I like. And then she chose stripes, colorful rainbow stripes to go underneath. And I was like, oh. So what I did was the dotted fabric was the main body of the curtains. And then it was a trim under the window ledge that was the rainbow stripes that I wouldn't put together, but it looks okay. It works. And she was happy with it.
Children, like with colors and patterns, they're just like magpies. They're drawn to bright colors or to specific patterns. And this is the connection we kind of lose along our life.
We do.
Because we tend to be a bit more wary or just like, this might not go so well. But as we grow, the use we see, the color range is broader as we grow. Because children, when they're very young, they see like the brightest hues, some of the brightest hues. And
that's
then
what they're attracted to.
Yeah.
When my daughter was young, she was a baby, like she was a newborn. And I remember someone came in with like a really bright dress and she just kept on following the dress. And I was like, oh, you love color like mommy. And now she loves color more because, as you said, as we evolve, we tend to become more conscious. Because even me, I don't express myself and my dressing through color anymore. It's through the work that I do. And even with the projects that I do, they can't always be colorful and have my taste in color because I'm actually designing for people. And I remember with one of the first project that I did, the Playroom project in Bishop's Avenue, it was that very colorful palette and Lego cupboards that the client actually saw the concept that I presented. They didn't tell me anything about color, but she said, make sure you use all those colors. She didn't want any change. She didn't want the softer.
Mm.
She just wanted it to be fun. And before we even finished the room, the children were just dying to come in, like peeping, coming in, leaving their nannies and coming in and just wanting to be in the space, but it wasn't ready. And it was because of the colors. And I remember having it on a card, like a promotional card that I used to hand out. And I went to Purple Dragon Play and there was a child and he saw the card and he was like, wow. And he was just sat there like fixated on this image. And I was like, feeling really proud, but also just seeing the reactions, because we don't always see the children's reaction when they first go into the space. And obviously, as adults, we're more reserved with our reactions and with our expression. So just seeing how the children responded to that was great.
In terms of colors, you need also to find areas in the space where you can be calm, but somewhere you can be more active and you can play, or you can, otherwise, if it's one color,
it's boring for children, isn't it? Yeah. And so that's what we do in every project that we approach, because some people can have a playroom, some people can't have a playroom. So it's just one room that the child, it's their room that we need to design so that it has all the areas. So you spoke about like having a calm area, which is usually like the reading corner, or having a more active corner. Sometimes if you have like climate elements, that could be the active corner, and then for sleep. Or if we have a big playroom, then we have more zones because there's like the different play areas. We have storage. Storage is essential in every child's room. So that's what we try and do so that it's not boring for a child. There's different things to do in their room if they need to be in their room.
You're designing also spaces for children with specific needs. How is your approach? How do you care for those specific needs?
I think the most important thing is having that initial meeting with the clients, which we do, and understanding what the needs are of the children. That's really important for us. So we do ask questions. We do have a questionnaire that they complete, understanding how they would like to use a space or how they use their spaces on a daily basis, and what are the issues or what problems can we solve. So one of our clients actually said that, for my child, I think labeling would be a good idea, like labeling with images. So that's what we proposed on their wardrobe and on their chest of drawers. So each drawer would have a picture to say, socks, vests, t-shirts, so that they will know where things are and where things should go when they're tidying up. So we really do ask, like, what are your needs or what are the child's needs before designing any space, and then we design according to that.
It's really important when you're working, for example, with neurodiverse children or children with specific needs. When I'm listening to podcasts, people saying, oh, you have to apply those muted colors or those generic colors or in this way every time. And in fact, sometimes you can use, but they have their own unique perspective. They're their own person. So you can't put them in a box.
Yeah, and exactly. It's not one size fits all. However, working with neurodiverse children and their needs, there are certain things that we have to consider, like acoustics, lighting, yes, color, but then again, how we use that color and what are the child's favorite colors? Like, what are they drawn to? Are we going to have shiny objects, or are we not going to have shiny objects in the space? Because again, if we're thinking generic, we probably wouldn't put a shiny object in a space with children with special needs. But then some children need that. Some children are drawn to that. Some children can deal with lighting. Some people are really annoyed by the smallest sounds, and some people aren't. Some people don't even notice that. So there are simple things that we have to consider that might not be an issue to me and you, but then for someone with neurodiverse needs, it's very important. One of the playrooms that we're working on now, again, it's for a child who's neurodivergent, and he's got specific needs and specific things that he needs in that playroom. Storage wasn't so much of an issue in the playroom, but in the bedroom it is, because it just needs to be more organized. So for the playroom now, we're focusing more on the needs and meeting those needs and having items in the playroom that will suit his specific needs. So we usually start with zoning the space. That's like, okay, what's the most practical solution for this room when we draw out the floor plan? And we are going to have like the monkey bars next to the door, then a mezzanine in the corner, and then hopefully like one of those sensory swings in the middle. So he's got that space to like swing. And then a desk under the window because we've got the natural light. So if they're working in the daytime, there's no shadows or anything hindering their vision to see their work. And then on the other side of the room, they have storage cupboards, and we're thinking of opening that and putting like a TV inside because again, the request was it would be nice to have a gaming section for the children. We have like a TV inside with storage around it. So that's the idea. And I feel like that's the most practical use of the space. We can show other ideas, but in terms of having that open space for him to play, elements for him to climb and pull himself up, and like almost like an obstacle course, those things need to be on the outside of the room, with space in the middle for him to use that swing. And then again, a desk for both children.
Education is different also for each children. For example, I redid a Montessori child room, and it was the first time I was doing according to Montessori.
Yeah.
So I tried to understand all the principles. The first principle was freedom in terms of the child must access everything, low bed, the shelves must be low, ordered, so you have to have clear zoning, storage area, and then it has to be visually appealing for the child to express their emotions. And then you need to have still natural elements like wood or plants. And it was like, how will I fit everything in it and still have kind of my signature style in it, but allowing the child to still be expressive?
Yeah.
We went into this kind of weather-inspired room with the sleeping area was the night, literally. So it was painted in dark blue and like kind of a cocoon. So created a geometric form and alcove for them to be really relaxed. And the opposite side was the play area. And from the bed, they couldn't see this area.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I hide it with like kind of a panel. And the play area was a sun with rainbow rays. So really, really bright. And on the other side was the storage and working area. I also created a little desk for this little girl. And as you said, I was seeing myself in the space and like, oh, I'm going to use this and this. And it was so fun. And after having done this project, the client called me and said, oh, the person from the nursery visited to see if the room was Montessori adapted, and she was like blown away. And my toddler is just playing. She always wants to be in her room, on her like little desk station and play, and she's so expressive, happy. As you said, children can't hide their emotions, so you can really.
So you see.
Yeah, they're very transparent. So if they don't like it, they don't like it.
Exactly. I've had a child actually tell me, I don't like your earrings. I prefer my mummy's. And it made me really conscious. You reminded me of the Montessori room that we did. One of the Montessori rooms. One was very grey. That was at the request of the client. Another one had color, but it was a different color palette to what we're used to. In terms of purples, I would never really put purples in a child's space, but I think it's because I'm just not naturally drawn to purples. But then the request from mum was like, she likes those colors and the yellows, and so we incorporated those colors. They worked really nicely actually. And then we had the sun. We painted a mural of the sun, just a block sun with the rays being like a triangular shape. And again, when we were done, that little girl was just all over her room. Like she jumped on the bed, rolled around, got off the bed, went to because she couldn't really express herself, but verbally, but physically, she was showing me and her mum that she loved this space. She pushed the wardrobe door open, closed it again, looked in the mirror, and it was like, okay, so you know how to use this space. You're actually enjoying the space. job done.
Do you have any specific tips for parents for designing their child's room?
Yes. I think it's really important, as I've mentioned before, for parents to get the children involved. Parents cringe, they're like, but listen to the children, hear them out, and take their ideas on board. Like one of our recent clients, she had two girls and they had two completely different tastes. And they were like 5 and 7. They were really young. And one had very vintage taste. Like all the things that she chose for her room and what she wanted was just things that we as designers would never choose for a child's room. Even her mum was like, I'm sorry that my daughter has very granny taste. And I'm like, I was laughing, but it's nice because that's her personality. That's what she likes.
Yeah.
And it went on for some months. So like there was a time where they chose the fabrics that they wanted, and then there was a waiting period just to see if they were going to change their minds. And it was like, nope, she still wants this. And so we incorporated this nice vintage floral wallpaper, and we didn't put it too much in the room. We had like small areas where we installed it. Then she wanted red and pink, but we did it in a subtle way that it works. So it's still like when you go into the space, you don't feel like overwhelmed by all this. And her bed was like an Art Deco shaped upholstered bed, and the wardrobe we decided to paint in a blue, like a really nice deep blue. We changed the wardrobe handles to like some gold round knobs. We had like a fluffy desk chair, which she absolutely loved. Mum was just like, no. But then we went ahead with it. The cat took over and it was the cat's bed after. She loved it. It was nice to see that her taste was very mature, very elaborate and vintage. And then her sister's now, it was much more quirky. So she liked stripes and bright yellows and pinks. Her window niches, we had like one orange and one blue. She loved it. Like that's a proposal. They loved it. Completely different, but it worked.
Yeah.
And both girls are really happy with their space. I mean, mum might not like it like as much, but it looks good listening to them and hearing what they want for their space. So listen, consider storage. Everybody needs storage. And maybe consider multifunctional furniture. So maybe a high sleeper with storage underneath if you don't have additional storage in the space. We designed a reading corner once that had storage drawers. It was an upholstered box, and then we had drawers so they could store things in there. And thinking also that this child is going to grow or is growing, and you want it to be a space that they can be in for the next 5 years at least.
And now you have furniture, or you can create also bespoke furniture that is evolving.
Like the child.
You can have a bed that is turning into a desk if it's starting to be too small for the child, and it's really important also in terms of sustainability, because you're not gonna change every
exactly. And that's what we try and do with most of our designs. And I think even in working in London, it's different from working outside of London, the countryside, because the rooms are a lot smaller in London. So you do have to consider those multifunctional furniture pieces and furniture pieces that will grow. So you mentioned the desk. In one of the rooms, we had a mid-sleeper with a desk and drawer underneath. So she could pull her desk out and use that.
And also with children, they're smaller than us. So you have to think about ergonomics. You have to have a space that is functional, ergonomics, and still has a bit of playfulness and
personality.
Yeah. So, Medina, how can our listeners contact you?
So we are on MK Kids Interiors on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and our website is www.mkkidsinteriors.com.
Thank you, Medina, for joining me today. It was really fun to talk about interior design for little ones and joyful spaces.
Thank you so much for having me, Justine. It's so lovely to be here. So lovely to speak about what we do.
Yeah.
And you've made my cheeks hurt from just smiling and being happy. I'm going to come back.
Please do. And thank you for joining us. See you soon for another joyful episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, Don't hesitate to subscribe, rate, or review on the different listening platforms. To say hello and get all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at rainbow.shaker. And if you want to check out my services, you can go to my website www.rainbowshaker.com. Thanks again, and I wish you all a very colorful day. See you next time!